All right, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, we're gonna go through questions and comments and just go line item by line item and help answer any questions you guys might have. I am gonna prioritize, Patreon people. So if you'd like to have your question prioritized or if it's really like kind of important to you, consider doing that. I'll try to also mix in everybody else, but just if that's something you're interested in, I will have descriptions down below. And also for everything that I'm talking about for skis, I will have affiliate links down in the description. That's how we're able to remain independent. And if you consider using that, that would mean the world to me. But without further ado, let's jump into your questions. All right, the first question comes from one of our channel producers, Dwayne. They say, after many years, I finally installed booster straps. Congrats, that's a great product. Do you use yours over or under the shell? That is a great question. So for booster straps, I actually have a set of boots I need to install them on, but the way that they get installed is pretty self-explanatory. If you kind of look at the boot, you just put it right here where these rivets are. You replace it on this part. Usually I have to take like a little jackknife and poke the holes where it goes. And I just line it up with the old one. And what you find is that naturally it goes over the liner. It doesn't really need to be over the shell. Now, some of these other, like this atomic strap, the kind of the OEM strap, half of it goes over the liner and half of it goes over the shell, but it really doesn't need to go over any part of the shell. It'll kind of hug a little bit of the edge of the shell, but I would just go with the manufacturer recommendation, which is, if you see here on their guide, directly over the liner. So just put it, don't mess with it. The bootmaker is pretty smart. Nobody knows the product better than the people actually making it. So what I do is I just put it over where the previous one was, and then I have it rest just at the cusp over the liner of the boot. Great question. I know that there's a lot of, people who agree or disagree about that. I really feel like it just gives you the snugger fit. You can kind of feel it more with the rubber. If it gets a little bit on the edge of the plastic, no one's gonna get hurt over that. But yeah, I typically run it over the liner, right? Now I'm kind of second guessing myself. If I was putting these on, yeah, I would get it just so it's on the liner and on the very edge of the plastic, kind of almost not tucked into it, but nestled gently on top of it. I hope that helps, Dwayne. Thank you. Also, can I just say I'm so excited to just need to unbolt these. I don't need to take a Dremel and slowly take off. That should be for every flex. That's my kind of note to all those boot makers out there. And also, thank you, Dwayne, for being a Patreon member. Because of the Patreon, I was able to get these Rhodes wireless mics. I know I get a lot of complaints about the audio in here, so I'm gonna test that out, see if it works better, but who knows? I've got the shotgun mic and this, and I'll just kind of pick whichever sounds better when I go to edit it. All right, next question comes from Paul. Paul says, hi Elliott, hope you and your family are well. What do you think about Elan's amphibio geometry? Inside edges more camber, outside edges more rocker. Makes sense, your outside and inside skis are doing slightly different things, but I just bought a Blizzard Anomaly 84 and a Blaze 94 that are built identical, although the graphics are a little different between the left and the right. Would there be any advantage having the outside edges slightly detuned so less risk of catching an edge with the inside ski? Might help with my lack of talent. Oh, stop. Paul, I'm sure it's fine. If affirmative, would you just run a gummy stone along the outside edges, mostly front one half, or go more radical and go milder base and edge angles? Ciao from Central Italy. Local ski slope open today, hoping to get a few runs tomorrow before all the snow melts. Okay, so are you asking, should you run the gummy stone on the outside of your Anomaly 84s? Or are you asking if someone should do that on their Elans? Or are you trying to kind of mimic what Elan's doing with their skis onto your skis? If I'm reading this right, what I would do is I would not do that, because Elan has a difference also in the shape. Their skis are asymmetrical. Similar to the boots, the manufacturers are pretty smart. I would not mess with it. What I would do is I would just tune it as normal. As always, detune the tips and tails, any points of the edge that aren't actually on the snow. And then what I would do is I would just leave it as it is and see how it feels, make sure it feels good, right? And then if you wanted to play with it, if you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right, or I do want to kind of test it out, you can always take the gummy stone with you. You can always take the gummy stone and play with that. But as far as I'm concerned, I would just leave it alone. Elan doesn't just have that going on with the edges. They also just have, different things kind of going on with the flex, with the shape of the ski. It's all kind of orchestrated to work together. So trying to make that happen on a Blaze or an Anomaly, I just think that, you know, it's not designed around that. You could test it, you might find something that you like, but you know, if it's a day you want to test things out, sure, go for it. You know, if you have the like means of messing around with it, or if you bring a couple of skis up for the day, whatever, you know, it's always fun to experiment. But if it's a day where you're like, oh, I'm just really excited to ski, I wouldn't mess with it. I think the ski manufacturers are pretty smart. You know, kind of do with that what you will. You can play around with it if you want. But I think as far as the way I understand the Elan ripsticks, it's more than, I understand the part about the camber of the inside edge and outside edge being different. But I think that there's also, they take that amphibio technology, however you want to say it, with their asymmetrical skis, and they also integrate it with the flex and the shape of the ski to kind of make it all work together. And I'm not sure that just doing that on any ski will give you that same result. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong. I don't totally know, but I would guess that you're not gonna be able to easily replicate that on a ski that's not designed to have that, if that makes any sense. Just my 2 cents, you know, prove me wrong. I'm more than open to being wrong. But if it's a day you don't want to risk missing out on, I would leave the skis tuned as they are. I hope that helps. Thank you so much, Paul. All right, next comment comes from Sam Font 6458. They said, what do you like better about the M7 Mantra compared to the Enforcer 99? Now, those are both really good credit cutter skis. I think they're both kind of, you know, equal caliber. I think that they're just serving different styles of skiers more optimally. So if you're somebody who likes to kind of hang out on the tails of your skis, if you like to kind of, you know, just like throw the skis and let them run all the way to the end, then you'll probably enjoy the Nordica Enforcer. If you like to kind of get the energy out of your turn more on the tails of the skis than the tips or the midsection, you might enjoy the Nordica Enforcer 99. But in my opinion, I like the M7 Mantra because it's a little bit more underfoot with its turns. It's got a little bit more engagement with the tips, and then you release the energy midway through the ski. I also like with the new M7 Mantra, I kind of think that it's doing a really good job with having those multiple turn radiuses, with allowing you to kind of slide things out and adjust your turn shape. I think that with the new M7 Mantra, some of the reworks, having more flexible turn radiuses, and it's more profound in the Mantra 88, but even still with the M7 Mantra, I like the turn flexibility. I like that how it does with bad weather and how well it carves. And for my ski style, I find that like being able to kind of have power under the midsection of the foot, be able to throw them and slide them on steeper pitches. I like the turn shapes, I like the diversity, but I can see a specific ski style preferring the Nordica Enforcer 99. They're both great skis. I just tend to prefer the M7 Mantra. And I think it's giving you a lot of value with that diversity of turn shapes, whereas you'd have to work a little bit more to get that out of the Nordica Enforcer. But again, if you have that style, it's probably not a big deal to work a little extra to get that kind of style of ski that you prefer. I hope that helps. I know I'm not sure I'm explaining exactly how I want. I think when I did both of my reviews, I talk about them, or I think I even maybe have a video comparing them, but just shooting from the hip, that's the best way I can think to explain it. Great question though. And also thank you for being a Patreon supporter. All right, Marcin Guitar says, nice recommendations. Based on your videos, Ski Essential videos, and some Gen AI advice, I independently arrived at Stockli Monero AX and Elan Ripstick 102BE. Oh, Black Edition. Which are not the exact same models you chose, but in the ballpark. So hopefully not terribly wrong for my needs. I'm way heavier. Okay. Yeah, I mean, those are great skis. I haven't been on the Ripstick 102, so I can't speak to it, but I've liked the other Ripsticks, like the 96, and the Monero AX is a fantastic ski. Be careful with the general AI advice. Like Ski Essentials is a great resource, but the Gen AI advice I'd be careful of, because I've just done like searches on, you know, with AI, and like for the most part, just to understand how it's seeing me. And it'll be like pretty accurate. It'll be like this and this, you know, it specializes and not taking money from ski brands, which is great. It's pretty accurate. But I did one search where it was saying, where I asked it like, okay, based on the videos, what are Elliott's favorite skis? And it wasn't like far off. It was just kind of, it felt like it was picking randomly, but it had one that was right and another that was okay. But then it goes, he really loves this K2, I forget the exact model. It's a model that doesn't even exist anymore. It's, you know, an old model that I've never reviewed. It was like, Elliott really likes the K299XE or something weird. And I was like, what? I've never reviewed that ski. What are they talking about? So be careful. AI, in my experience, can be pretty good for understanding broad topics that you're trying to just get like an overview of, but I would not take its word as gospel, because once it gets kind of in the weeds or with specialized understanding of information, it definitely starts to unravel. It's saying like that my favorite ski is a ski I've never even skied on. So just be careful. I mean, you know, it doesn't sound like you misused it here, but yeah. I don't know if these are the best skis for you because I don't really know your ski style or where you're skiing. Monterey X is a fantastic ski. I like the other Elan ripsticks, so it seems like you're generally on a pretty good path. But if you wanted more feedback, I guess just give me more specifics. But it's probably fine. I don't know. It'll be okay. Worst case scenario, you hate them and you buy a different ski next time, you know, and sell those skis. Stocklis are certainly easy to sell, and I don't know about K2. That's between you and K2. Or no, Elan. Sorry, not K2. Yeah, and the Elans are sought after as well. So worst case scenario, you turn around and sell them back and get something different. I wish I could be more helpful. But, you know, seems like you're on a good path here. All right, Cooper Cash 9597 says, what size bent 110 should I go for? I am 173 centimeters tall and weigh 105 kilograms. This will largely be a powder ski mixed day ski for me. Okay, what size do they even make the bent 110 anymore? And I always forget, bent 110, well, let's see, what size are they? Let's go to backcountry. They usually have pretty good inventory. Okay, they make it in a 164, 172, 180 centimeter, 188 centimeter. Okay, if you are 173 and this is a designated powder ski, you're right in between sizes. That's probably why you're emailing me. You could go with a 172 if you're in the woods a lot and you want to kind of squirrel around. But honestly, with how early the atomic bent splays and how easy it is to turn, and this is a designated powder ski, I would probably go up with a 180 centimeter length. I think that'll be fine for you, especially like since they're already like default more center mounted. They're pretty easy to turn, they're pretty forgiving, they splay really early so the amount of surface on the snow isn't that high. A lot of it is to taste. You know, if you're wanting something shorter, if you're going on really tight tree glades, sure, maybe you could go with a 172, but I think 180 centimeter would probably be my recommendation for a designated powder ski. If you can get on a pair to demo and you can play with the mounting point, I feel like that's pretty valuable for a lot of people with the Atomic Bent 110 series or any of the Atomic Bents. But, you know, and then that way you could test different lengths and kind of see where you're at with that. But, you know, you are definitely kind of in between sizes, but because it's the Atomic Bent, with other skis, I might like recommend, you know, more like a 176 or something like that. But I think with the Bent series specifically, it being lighter, it being more splayed, it being even already kind of more center mounted, you should be fine with a 180 centimeter. I don't think that'll give you too many problems. All right, Blur Glide says, I've never had confidence on my edges like I do on the Monterey R. They have no ho-hum. They make ho-hum hard pack day into an amazing experience, and in that sense are actually a decent value if you get a lot of days like that. I agree 100%. I very early on when I tested Stockli was like, you know, what could possibly make these cost this much? And very quickly, when you have that good of an experience, you go, oh, even on like a really chattery day, you're getting a smooth turn. Oh, like this is totally dialed in. I'm not having to like maneuver or make sacrifices to get the kind of turn I want. This is smooth on edge, smooth like with dampness, and if you're dialed in, we'll give you a phenomenal turn. I think for a lot of people, if you don't quite feel like you're that confident in your timing, or you're still kind of working on your carving, the Storm Rider really scratches that itch for a lot of like intermediate to advanced people. I think would get more value out of a Storm Rider. But if you feel like you've got your carving pretty locked in, you've got some race experience, the Monterey R is expensive, but just a phenomenal ski. I talk about it all the time. I feel like a broken record a little bit, but you know, if you want the smoothest like GS to slalom turn somewhere in between there for radius, I have yet to find anything that does it better than the Monterey R. There are skis that do other things, like that do other things really well. And certainly if you got like a powder day, you know, you would definitely want to leave the Monteros at home. But my God, if you're looking for a dialed in carving ski, it is really good. So great comment, Blur Glide. I 100% agree. So anyway, that's the end of these questions. Thank you so much for everybody who writes in. Thank you for everyone who uses the Patreon. Thank you everyone who used the affiliate links over Black Friday. I noticed a ton of you guys click through. I know it's kind of a pain to go in and click through, but it really means a ton to me. It's probably the majority share of my revenue at this point for the channel, and it has allowed me to make more content and make more videos. You know, for my family, it's like, okay, like this makes sense to spend more time on. So you guys are having a real effect on the channel and on my life. And I just, you know, want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who just watches, likes, and subscribes. That also helps a ton, you know, kind of extend my reach and get the videos in front of more people, and you know, allows more brands to be interested in sending me the skis to test. So you guys really have impacted my life a ton. I will never stop saying thank you for that. At least, you know, that's my plan. And of course, as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.